It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
What started out as a robbery crew, upwards of 50 robberies, 20 individuals arrested for upwards of 50 robberies, and out of those 20 individuals, every single one of them is on the streets today. So
that's crazy. Now, there are reports that they're operating the Roosevelt Hotel, which used to be a very nice hotel in New York City. Now it's a migrant shelter. What are we talking about? What's going on inside this hotel that is now spilling out into the Times Square area?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a recruitment process.
It makes you wonder, why does his staff want him to hide away? One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America? Is that what's going on?
He said that we've got these cities and these towns that are being overrun by gangs and the crime out of control. I absolutely agree with that. And guess what? It's the MAGA gang. It is the white supremacists that have decided to descend upon places such as Springfield, Ohio. So I agree with him. I just disagree with who the problems are. The problems are him and his minions. The problems aren't the people that have come to make our economy stronger, the people that have actually been able to help to continue to make sure that we got out of the big hole that he put us in after COVID-19 with his ineptness. Like, yeah, I agree that there are problems in our communities, but usually it's some white supremacists on the other side.
Regardless of who wins, you'll certify the results.
Regardless, of course, yes, if the election is free and fair and legal, and we pray and hope that it is, there's a lot of work being done to make sure that's true. I think this one's going to be so large, there'll be no question. I think Donald J. Trump is your next president, and that can't happen soon enough.
Former President Trump has yet to concede in 2020.
That's the point. No, the point is the process works. We have the peaceful transfer of power. We did in 2020. We will in 2024. Everybody can decide and take a deep breath. Our system is going to work.
You know, I used to say after the first term of President Trump, we just witnessed one of the great presidents in American history. And now I say, this is the greatest president in American history. But I think it goes further than that. I think we are in the midst of one of the greatest leaders in human history, and his name is Donald J. Trump. This guy right here.
It was a rough week. I mean, her faves are down. They're struggling with, the front page of the New York Times this morning, Democrats struggling with African-American voters, particularly African-American men. This gender gap issue is real. It's a real problem, and you see the Democrats reacting to it. And I think what they are now finally in October, the election, coming to realize is that a lot of men think Democrats care more about dudes who want to become women than dudes who just want to be dudes.
Well,
and no hunting, cosplay, or cringy videos is going to change it. The bet is made. Working class men, whether you're black, Hispanic, or white, persistently, consistently do not believe the Democratic Party, and specifically Kamala Harris, are going to do a thing for them. They've been told that they're the problem, and I suspect they're going to rise up on Election Day and tell the elites who told them that you're wrong.
President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Okay, let's just end that with they did not invade or take over the city, as Donald Trump said. I want to move on to
just a few apartment complexes. No big deal.
A few apartment complexes that the mayor did not seem was invading the entire city.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
First of all, Supreme Court very clear in a unanimous 2017 decision that hate speech is protected. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be protected, stuff none of us like to hear. But more importantly, who gets to decide on the issue of what misinformation is?
Look, the First Amendment is foundational. It's something I spent my whole life, the vice president, and I think most Americans are clear on this. The point being on this, we're seeing censorship coming in the form of book bannings in different places. We're seeing it attempts in schools. The issue on this is the hate speech and the protected hate speech. Speech that's aimed at creating violence, speech that's aimed at threats to individuals. And that's what we're talking about in this. And the decision on that, society decides on a lot of this. The idea of someone going on and threatening someone's life or a child's life online, I don't think any of your viewers think that is something that should be acceptable.
I mean, there's a distinction, you would say, though, between something like a threat and misinformation.
Oh, certainly, and that's what we're talking about. And I think the idea of making sure that folks understand, are good consumers of that, those are the decisions they make. But I've always defend your First Amendment rights, defend your right to disagree on every case. That robust discussion has to happen. And that's why I'm so opposed to book banning. That's why in Minnesota we banned the practice of book banning. Let you make the decision of what you're going to read, whether you find it objectionable or not. The difference is threats, that type of speech.
Okay.
I mean, the reality is that for the first time in 32 years in this poll, it shows that Republicans are beating Democrats straight up. When you ask people the generic ballot in 32 years, it shows that Donald Trump's doing better with black voters, Hispanic voters, off the charts. But what the most important thing is, what happened last week is that what was working with female voters with Kamala Harris was that there was some feeling of joy in the air. Well, that joy is gone. She had a terrible week. She picked a pointless fight with Ron DeSantis. She was losing in the Sun Belt, and she tried to recover by going on The View, which a lot of women watch. She went on The View. You talked about it earlier. And she wanted to clarify the two most important issues that are facing these two candidates, the economy and immigration. And she bombed like Rory at the U.S. Open, and she went out there and said there was nothing she would do that would be different than Joe Biden. And she created a campaign commercial for Donald Trump. And so she's trying to recover. There is no joy in the air, and everybody knows it. And it's obvious that there is a leak in the balloon here in the Kamala Harris campaign.
Look, you all know it. We can't have 4 more years of this. We won't have 4 more years of it. We won't.
Well, folks, it's time to turn the page. It's time to turn the page. Turn the page. Because America is ready to chart a new way forward.
There's this whole, I talked with somebody once who said, if you just look at where the stars are in the sky, don't look at them as just random things. If you just look at them as points, look at the constellation, what does it show you? So you just outlined it, Roland. What does it show you?
Donald Trump has now said, I'm going to pardon those people because they're hostages. No, they're not. They're thugs. There were people, some of them had automatic weapons at a hotel in Virginia hoping to be able to be called up. We had people saying, where's Nancy Pelosi? We had people who were, taking desks and sitting at the desk of the Speaker of the House and attempting to, find people in order to bring them to justice and saying yelling at the police, kill them all. And so why Trump has done this is beyond me. If he had said, you know what? I trust our jury system. I trust law enforcement. Anybody who assaulted the Capitol ought to be. I mean, he said it once or twice, but now he's appearing in a video with people who assaulted police officers with an intent to take the Capitol by force. So, look, I'm a Republican. I don't want to have a Democrat president. I want to have a Republican president. But we're facing as a country a decision, and everybody gets to make it, as to what kind of leadership we're going to have. And to me, it is a mistake on the part of the Trump campaign to allow the president's impulses to identify himself with the people who assaulted the Capitol rather than people who stand for law and order.
How about this? Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California.
Newsom.
He signed Newsom, I call him.
Yeah. But do you think...
No, he corrected me. He corrected me. I said, that's the first time I've been corrected.
Have you noticed how sharply the polls have shifted in Trump's favor over the last couple weeks? With these claims that Trump is surging with Black and Latino voters and leading in every single swing state, according to secret internal polls, despite all the Hitler talk? Yes, this race will be far too close. Because unfortunately, we do have a fascist groundswell in parts of this country, mainly among white men, let's be clear, but in small pockets among Black and brown men, too. This happens to be a global phenomenon as women become more economically independent and seek positions of power.
Could you please respond to Trump's claim that he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to round up immigrants if he wins the election? This law was last used to put Asian Americans in internment camps during World War II, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Trump wins, he's going to use this law to put anyone that doesn't look white in camps, and I'm scared.
Yeah, so you've hit on a really important point and expressed it, I think, so well, which is he is achieving his intended effect to make you scared. He is running full time on a campaign that is about instilling fear.
We might think we knew the results of elections a lot sooner in previous elections. We really didn't. It was just the margins were so large that we were able to call the elections earlier. It always takes a long time to count ballots. We're going to see that again, and margins are likely to be tight. So we might need to wait a few days in states like Georgia and elsewhere.
Let's say Trump wins. What happens?
I think it will be the cause of the greatest mental health crisis in the history of the country.
Are you being serious?
100% serious. I think there'll be alcoholism. There'll be broken marriages.
What?
Yeah. It'll be less anger and more a failure to understand how it could happen. So traumatic that it is impossible for even the most mentally healthy person to truly process and incorporate into their daily life. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen for tens of millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that Donald Trump says he doesn't drink, but this feels like drunken behavior. I think he's probably microdosing, like his friend Elon Musk.
The people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen.
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
That you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Dana, you've been on the other side. You've been on the rapper as a press secretary interviewing a president. And, you know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. So, Martha, final, I had to dismount there at the end. There's so many things, and she maybe should do more of these.
Well, I think so.
The most dangerous thing that we could see as Americans is a Kamala Harris presidency where, in order to try to hide her insecurity and her weakness and her desire to prove strength, that she is a commander-in-chief, the first thing that she will do is use our men and women in uniform and the might of our military to go and try to prove that strength and suck us into yet another unnecessary, counterproductive, costly war. This is someone who cares about power, not the people, and nothing can be more dangerous for us than that.
I will just say that you texted me right around the Democratic convention, and you said, I am talking to people, and Kamala Harris has a problem with black men.
Yeah, and I told the campaign I did not hear from them. I mean, who am I for them to get back to me? But there's a problem. And look, I went from battleground state to battleground state. When they invited me to the convention, I didn't just want to fly there. I said, I'm going to go and talk to voters in battleground states, and I did. It was not curated. I went up to people just doing man on the street. I said, who are you going to vote for? Black men. And time after time after time, they said, I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Why?
Now, their reasons, why? They said, because most of the time they said, well, you know, for economic reasons, right? Or because he gave me a stimulus check. And I had to correct them over and over and tell them where that stimulus check came from a Democratic Congress and from Nancy Pelosi. And that Donald Trump actually held the check up so that his name could be put on the check. So they think they got the check directly from him. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has given 1 or 2 stimulus checks as well, but they seem not to know and understand that. You can vote for whoever you want to vote for, but the reasons that you're going to vote for them, I think that they should be accurate and factual, and you should know why you're supporting someone.
I can't emphasize enough that Pennsylvania is, I think, the linchpin in this election, and this election, I think, is going to decide the fate of America, and along with the fate of America, the fate of Western civilization. You know, interesting to see the crossover between the Epstein client list and Kamala's puppet masters. I bet there's a lot of names that appear in both lists.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president. And I actually said, do you mind if I do that? And he said, no, you got to do what you got to do. He's a pro. He's a professional. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris. Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
Should never again have the stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again. Never again. With the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
Miss Beryl, by the way. I see Vice President Harris. She looks so much like Miss Beryl. Her facial features, the only thing is Miss Beryl was much smaller in stature.
Kamala is very fair-skinned.
Right.
Was Beryl fair-skinned?
Yes, she was.
She was?
She was.
Okay.
Yes, she's very fair-skinned.
Oh.
With black hair.
Really?
Yes. So she was so fair-skinned that now that I'm older and I can spot people by their skin coloring, etc., for me, I would say there was something Irish there.
Can I show you a photograph?
Of course.
Of an old lady.
Yes.
And some people speculate that this is Miss Beryl.
Right.
So.
Okay. Nah, that's not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
That's definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
And I know what she looks like. I couldn't have been in a dream, and she definitely did not look like that.
There's another person, but could that be Miss Beryl?
No, that's not Miss Beryl. That's not Miss Beryl either.
Okay.
Don't know who that is.
Okay.
The thing that scares the system, that scares the machine, is that Donald Trump is not a puppet. He's a real person, you know, and he's not beholden to anyone. And that's why you see sort of, you know, they're trying to kill him. You know, and you know, I mentioned as a joke, I meant it as a joke, that no one's even bothering to try to kill Kamala, you know, because there's no point. There's no point. Is what just get another puppet, you know. So I'm not suggesting someone should try to kill her. It's pointless. But I'm just saying, I'm just making an observation. Nobody's bothered. Why is that? Because it doesn't matter. Yeah, assassinating a puppet is pointless.
So you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a shit vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. Get out of here.
I'm so proud to be from this city. You know, they say if Kamala wins, then the whole country will be like Detroit. Okay? Proud like Detroit. Resilient like Detroit.
I think that behooves artists to come out and speak for Kamala against Donald Trump because he is an existential threat to the country. What do you say to that?
You know what? I don't get too deep into politics. I think voting is an individual choice.
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel.
I'm supporting Vice President Harris because she fights. I love you more, but I love Kamala Harris even more.
I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. It should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
He probably includes you in the radical left and probably includes you as an enemy from within. National Guard, military.
What you have to understand about the former president is he's always projecting. When he talks about the enemy within, he's talking about himself and his supporters. And when he's talking about actions that may be taken, he's talking about what they have done, what they are doing right now, and what they may continue to do. So understand, when he says crooked Hillary, he knows he's crooked. When he says crazy Nancy, he knows he's crazy. When he says the enemy within, he's talking about himself.
Whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all enjoy the same glorious freedoms, and we all salute the same great American flag. And whether a child is born in the urban sprawl of Detroit or the windswept plains of Nebraska, they look up at the same night sky, they fill their heart with the same dreams, and they are infused with the breath of life by the same almighty Creator. So to all Americans, in every city, near and far, small and large, from mountain to mountain, from ocean to ocean, hear these words. You will never be ignored again. Your voice, your hopes, and your dreams will define our American destiny. And your courage and goodness and love will forever guide us along the way. Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you.